All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. Part two of my exclusive interview with the amazing Graeham Goble from the original Little River Band, as we talk about how the band ended up losing its name. This is a very detailed explanation given by one of the chief founding members of this band. I find it fascinating to hear these details, and I think you will too. Again, part two of my exclusive interview. And without further ado, here is the great Graeham Goble with all of the details.
I'll just try and run down as to it's like the events that led to the original band losing the name. Okay, so like we formed Little River Band in 1975, and at that time we also formed two companies through which we conducted all of the business activities of the band. So the band members were the shareholders in that company, in the companies as well, but our manager Glenn Wheatley exclusively ran the companies. So he did all the business. We had two companies, and Wheatley was in charge of that, and then we were doing the music. Now, on December 19th, 1978, one of the companies, and it was called LRB Enterprises, registered the trademark Little River Band in the United States, but not anywhere else, just in the United States. And that was because we were just going about to sign with Capitol Records. So our company, of which I was a shareholder, Little River Band Enterprises, registered the trademark. And this, but the actual registration of the mark was done without the knowledge of the band members. So I'm not sure if Glenn did it or maybe a lawyer in America did it, but anyway, there was in existence a registered trademark in 1978, and the band members didn't know that the name Little River Band had been registered. So we went on our career, and then by 1986, we had completed the 8 albums with Capitol Records, and all of the band members, other than myself, had left LRB, and the band ceased to perform. This was in 1986. We'd finished it all, and we thought, well, that was that. But 15 months later, in July 1987, I was approached by Jeffrey Shoecraft, who had a management company and called Palmer Shoecraft Management, I think. And he told me that MCA Records was keen to sign a recording contract with a reformed LRB. So LRB was reformed, and the membership was myself, Glenn Shorrock, Derek Pellicci, Wayne Nelson, and Stephen Housden. And this, of course, only included 3 original members, which was Shorrock, Pellicci, and myself. The other original members that had owned the trademark in LRB Enterprises were, of course, Beebe, Birtles, David Briggs, and George McArdle, but they were not in this reformed LRB that did the MCA albums. So we formed a new corporate entity for this, and that was called We2 Proprietary Limited. But there was a problem with getting signed to MCA, because MCA needed the right to use the Little River Band trademark, but that was owned and controlled by the original LRB members. So at that time, the original band that owned the name was myself, Shorrock, B. Birtles, Derek Pellicci, David Briggs, and George McArdle. So now the band members were not told about this problem with MCA. So our management, who had done the negotiations with MCA, they said, oh, it's all fine, and we'll get it all done. But they didn't tell us anything that MCA wouldn't sign us unless they had absolute rights to the name. So Jeffrey Shoecraft and lawyer Tom Stevens, who documented, and he put all the documentation for We2 together, they went to see Glenn Wheatley, who was a director of LRB Enterprises, the company who owned the name with the original guys. And then over the next 8 months of negotiation between Wheatley and Tom Stevens, they eventually got Wheatley Glenn Wheatley to agree to facilitate, and this is words from the assignment agreement, he agreed to facilitate the assignment of the mark to We2 in return for him, not the band, but in return for him receiving a 1% override royalty on the first reformed LRB album released by MCA. So the mark was assigned, the name Little River Band was assigned, not licensed, which it should have been, and not one of the original members of LRB were told about this sale of the LRB name to We2. So the name was transferred from the original company to this new company that was signed to MCA, and nobody knew about it other than Glenn Wheatley and our new management, Jeffrey Shoecraft and Tom Stevens, who did the documentation. The assignment document, apart from being signed by Wheatley, it has my signature on it, which was extraordinary, but my signature is on this document. But I wasn't a director of LRB Enterprises or We2. In fact, Glenn Shorrock was the second director of LRB Enterprises, and his signature wasn't included in the sale document at all. I can only guess that new management secured my signature at a rehearsal or backstage at a gig, because we often signed stuff without reading the contents. It was just typical of the way in which management treated bands back then. Wheatley's signature legally and permanently removed the LRB trademark in the US from the ownership of the original band without our knowledge. So that happened in 1988. So then on October 11th, 1988, LRB Enterprises was deregistered. Now, this is the company that originally owned the trademark that transferred it across to We2. The deregistration declaration was signed by Glenn Wheatley, and once again, the band members were not consulted. We didn't know about that. So We2 owned the US mark, and then We2, which is this new company, of which I was a member also, the management of We2 then applied for the Australian mark, and they got the Australian mark in January 1989, and it was probably arranged by Jeffrey Shoecraft or Tom Stevens, I don't know. So, just have a water here. So in 1989, after recording the two albums for MCA, myself and Wayne Nelson left the reformed LRB, and we each transferred our $1 share in We2 to the remaining three shareholders, who were Shorrock, Pollicci, and Housden. And because I didn't even know that We2 owned the LRB trademark, I accepted a payment of just $6,000, which was my 1/5 share of the money in the We2 bank account. We had 30 grand in the bank. I got 6 grand there. There was no mention of the very valuable asset, the Little River Band trademark. Mm-hmm. There was no mention of that. It didn't even come in conversation. I thought that LRB wouldn't continue after I left, but they did. And Shorrock, Pollicci, and Housden put together a band, and they continued. So in 1997, Housden and Pollicci asked Glenn Shorrock to commit to 7 months a year touring in the US, because they wanted the money, but Glenn didn't want it. He'd do 8 weeks a year, but he had another life here and doing his other shows and things. So he would give them 8 weeks a year, but that wasn't enough. And so, but he also didn't want Pollicci and Housden to continue without him. And he tried legally to stop them, but he failed. And so he sold, I guess reluctantly, sold his share in We2 to Housden and Pollicci. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if Glenn knew that We2 owned the LRB name. I don't know if that is the case. But in any event, We2 then was a company owned by Housden and Pollicci. And then incredibly, Housden and Pollicci continued in a partnership, performing with paid musicians. But then just 10 months later, in December of 97, Derek Pollicci left LRB and sold his then 50% share in We2 to Housden. And then, of course, Housden owned 100% of We2, and he owned the LRB trademark exclusively. Now, this was in December 1997, and the original founding members, which was myself, Beeb Birtles, David Briggs, and George McArdle, had no knowledge that Housden had gained 100% control of the LRB trademark. We didn't even know that an LRB trademark existed. We thought that we were Little River Band, but that we didn't realise that this had happened. So in 1998, LRB continued to perform in the US with Housden and paid musicians. And this was the first time that Little River Band performed without an original member.
Right.
Now, in 1999, Wayne Nelson returned to the US LRB and took the role of lead singer. In 2002, and that went for a couple of years, and then in 2002, I had the idea to reform the original band, and I contacted Glenn Shorrock and Beeb Birtles, and we decided to reunite and call ourselves Birtles, Shorrock, Goble, the original Little River Band, because we knew that they were performing as Little River Band over there, and we didn't want to cause confusion, so we thought, okay, we'll call ourselves BSG, Birtles, Shorrock, Goble, but we wanted to use the original Little River Band, which would be our marquee name. Mm-hmm. But then Housden heard of our intentions, and his company, We2, launched legal action. And We2 was represented by Tom Stevens, who put the Reformation company together, but he went with Steve Housden and represented him. So we went to court because we thought we couldn't lose. You know, we were Little River Band. Mm. We had continuously used the name worldwide since 1975, selling records and touring. And also in Australia, and it's also in America, Australia and America are their first to use jurisdictions. And that means that the first user of a mark is entitled to be registered as the trademark owner. So we thought, well, irrespective of anything, we were the first users of the mark. We are Little River Band. How could we possibly lose this? Mm-hmm. So on the third day of the hearing, Tom Stevens, representing We2 and Housden, produced a Xerox copy of this assignment document. They couldn't find the original, but he had a Xerox copy of it. And that showed that Glenn Wheatley had sold the name or assigned the name to We2. And we were devastated because we had to reluctantly agree to not perform as Little River Band ever again because of this assignment that happened way back in 1988.
Yeah.
This was a long time before, and that we were not even aware of. Mm-hmm. And of course, if we had been aware of it, why would we have spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in court fighting something that we knew we would lose? We thought, how can we not win? Because we didn't know about the assignment that took place in 1988 between our new management and our old management, Glenn Wheatley and Jeffrey Shoecraft. Anyway, so we decided in a positive way, we thought, well, okay, we can't use the name Little River Band, but we'll continue as Birtles, Shorrock, Goble, because we wanted to play together. We really wanted to have all the original band together, but we knew that wasn't possible. Mm-hmm. But without the marquee LRB Little River Band name, there was just no way to adequately promote us in America. And there was just what we needed to be called the original Little River Band, and then we would have toured, and we wanted to, because there was a great demand, and we at that time in the early 2000s, and we were still in really good form, and we had a wonderful catalogue, and I think audiences would have loved our show. Yeah. So anyway, and we eventually we toured in Australia for a few years, and we did the wonderful DVD of Full Circle, where we revisited all the songs, and that's a great record now, that DVD of how we would have sounded had we come to America. Anyway, it didn't happen. So anyway, the American band continued. In 2007, Housden retired from touring, and he was replaced by a paid guitarist. And now Steve Housden, I believe, I'm not in contact with him, but I think he currently resides in Ireland, and he lives off the licensing income for the use of the LRB name paid to him from the touring activities of the All-American US LRB. And that's what goes on today. Now, the original members of Little River Band who wrote and recorded all the hits, we receive no income at all from the touring activities of the US LRB, nothing. And then to add insult to injury, the US LRB use our songs and our recordings and our images to advertise their shows, sorry. They also display our album covers on their website, and they claim our history in their biography. And even some of my songwriting awards, like my reminiscing 5 million plays, they sort of in a roundabout way claim credit for that when, of course, none of them contributed to the song Reminiscing at all. Mm-hmm. So Wayne Nelson claims that the current All-American lineup of LRB is a continuation of the original band. That's sort of how they use the biography, because they say, well, this is a continuation and LRB is now celebrating like the 40th anniversary. Well, of course, it's not their 40th anniversary. But it's not the case that they're a continuation of the original band. Like the band playing today is a continuation of the 1988 Reformation, the We Two lineup, as I call it. That's where it's gotten to, because the original band sort of finished in 1986.
Yeah.
Now, so nearly finished. It's and this is a cut down version of 20 pages, but anyway. So the band that everyone knows as Little River Band, the band who signed with Capitol Records and wrote and recorded all the hits, were part of an entirely different company, the Little River Band Proprietary Limited. That's a separate thing to We Two, which is what Stephen Houston owns, and We Two own the trademark. But the original band used to own the trademark. The Little River Band name was never for sale. The original band members lost ownership of the name when the US trademark was assigned to We Two by Glenn Wheatley. So Steve Houston, he ended up owning the name because he was the only shareholder who never resigned from the company We Two. You see, everyone else resigned out of that company. And the company that owned the mark that we all resigned didn't even know, we didn't know that it owned the mark. So he didn't purchase the LRB name in an open commercial transaction. He acquired or became the owner of the mark through these events that I've just outlined above. Mm-hmm. So now, when we first came to America in 1976, we used to start our show with Glenn Shorrock saying, "Greetings from Australia, we are the Little River Band." Mm-hmm. Now, Wayne Nelson has been recorded saying that the exact same thing when the All-American Band walks on stage. He says, "Greetings from Australia, we are Little River Band." And of course, often there might be a 3 to 5 minute ovation, and the All-American lineup that played on none of the hits soak up that ovation and recognition, and then go into It's a Long Way There. And that's exactly the way that we used to open the show in the late 70s, and they do what I've seen footage of them doing the same thing. But surely that's an attempt to have the audience believe that they are about to see at least some members of the original band who recorded the hits. And so the audience stand there and they hear "Greetings from Australia." Oh, okay, this is real. And then they go on the website and they see all of our albums that we recorded that they didn't play on. They see all of that. Then they see the awards and the recognition that we've received and we've obtained, and our Grammy nomination and all those sorts of things. This is all on their website. Yeah. But there's no photos of us. It's only photos of them. So the person investigating or looking into it think, well, okay, this is the real deal. Okay. So the last thing to say is this. In January this year, Rolling Stone magazine wrote, "A fake version of Little River Band continues to tour, playing shitty versions of the hits." They're not my words. This is in the January 2021 Rolling Stone magazine. Now you can go onto Spotify and you'll find 18 versions of the Night Owls, 20 versions of called Change or Reminiscing. But there's only one of those versions is the original recording.
Mm.
But the public has no way of really knowing without really knowing. So a casual inquirer goes onto Spotify, for instance, and puts up a playlist, and there's a good chance that they will get a re-recorded version that isn't the original. And of course, that's made more difficult because Wayne Nelson contacted Spotify and had our photograph and our biography removed from the site. So when you go onto Spotify, you see a photo of the American band and the American biography. So, well, I mean, what can I say? I mean, I just call on Stephen and Wayne to return the name to the original band. Like it's the right thing to do.
Mm.
And we're just not. We're all getting older now, and it's just. I'm certain that even the guys, maybe even Stephen Housen doesn't know the truth of this story, which I've just outlined, the actual facts. I think that he thinks we walked away from the band. He didn't. He owns the name. Well, it's just not that simple. We left the band, but we didn't leave the trademark knowingly. We didn't even know there was a trademark to leave.
Yeah.
And I think that even I'm pretty certain that the guys in the current touring band in America have been told a certain story by Wayne and possibly even Stephen, and they think that it's all kosher and it's fine, and that we're just a complaining, cynical lot. I mean, we get postings like, "You sold the name, stop complaining."
Yeah.
Well, I can understand that type of post. Like there was a song I wrote called "Someone's Taken Our History."
Yeah.
And someone posted, "Stop whining, you sold the name, get over it." And I'm thinking, are you stupid? Why would I write a song like "Someone's Taken Our History" if I had sold the name and wanted it back? Another person said, "You sold the house and now you want the keys back." Like that's so long ago. How dare you?
Yeah.
They don't get it. We didn't sell the house. We didn't sell the keys. It's cost tens of millions to us, I guess. But it's cost more than that because in our prime over the last 20 years, we could have presented awesome shows to the American fans that want to see and would love to see the original band together again.
Yeah.
And that time and that date may have passed. It might just be too late now. There's a right thing to do here. We started this band. We created all of the songs, wrote them, recorded them, created the career, and created the platform that the US band tour on and earn a living on.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, from where I sit on this planet, and I guess a lot of people might agree with me, that it's not really a kosher thing. It's not really the right thing to be doing, to be not only presenting yourself as even endorsed by the original, or even that you are a continuation of the band when you're not. Mm-hmm. It's just not the right thing to do.
We're going to wrap up soon because there's a lot of information. I think that was probably enough for folks to digest. But one of the arguments that I hear from the American side is that Wayne Nelson is kind of like their anchor because he joined the group, what was around 1980 or so when Wayne joined? 80, 81?
Well, he joined as a sideman first, and then he later became a member, yes.
Yeah, he sings on Time Exposure. And, that was the connection where, I'd heard recently they were celebrating 45 years with Wayne in the band. So they tend to try to use his existence and the fact that he was asked to join. And then there was some other stuff written about how George Martin wanted him to sing. And
That
Um,
let me come in on that. That is complete bullshit. Complete. The truth of that is that when I was the person that got Wayne into LRB, I loved his voice back in the day. And when he joined the band, I wrote the Night Owls for his voice. And he had never, from my recollection, I don't think he'd ever recorded lead vocal on anything. And it was me that gave him the opportunity. It wasn't George Martin. When we went to Montserrat, Wayne was already the singer of um, of the Night Owls. I
okay.
mean, initially when I presented it to the band, we did it a couple of times with Glenn singing it live,
Yeah.
but it was always my intention or my preferment, if that's a word, for Wayne to sing the Night Owls because I had his voice in my head when I was writing that song, and I was thinking of John Travolta's Saturday Night Fever. That was my inspiration. I had the trailer of that, and I had Wayne's voice, and so then I wrote the Night Owls. And so
Yeah.
when I presented it, I could hear that Wayne could do that well. So it was 100% me that gave him the opportunity to become the lead vocalist on that song. So when we recorded it in Montserrat, it Glenn Shorrock did not do a lead vocal on the Night Owls. It was only Wayne Nelson,
Yeah.
and um, that was not George Martin's call. And in fact, to my memory, that lead vocal was recorded in the night session when
Mm.
it was Wayne, Beebe, myself, and Ern Rose, our engineer. So there's all these sort of stories that are made up, and I've seen those quotes where George Martin saw my potential, da 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 da. That was not the case. And the same thing happened with the song called "Take It Easy on Me."
Yeah.
And I wanted Wayne to sing that. I liked his rendition of it, but George Martin pushed actually not for Wayne but for Glenn Shorrock to sing it.
Yeah.
You see, and so we had two versions of "Take It Easy on Me." And I actually went to bat for Wayne in that I went to the head of Capitol Records and had a meeting with them. And I said, look, as the songwriter of Take It Easy on Me, I would prefer to have Wayne Nelson singing the lead.
Hmm.
And they said, there is no way we're going to have two singles in a row without Glenn Shorrock on the
Yeah.
lead vocal.
Yeah.
Okay. So they said they didn't care about Nelson. They wanted Shorrock on lead vocal.
Right.
So at the time, I was a bit disappointed with that because I thought, well, like the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac, they have more than one lead singer, and now, of course, I've got three top tens. Like the other guy was sung by Farnham, the
Yeah.
Night Owls by Wayne Nelson, and the rest by Shark. So there's three lead singers sung my songs in America.
Yeah.
But now, looking back, and I listened with less emotion to both versions, and clearly the heart and soul of Glenn's rendition of Take It Easy on Me is far superior
Yeah.
to Wayne Nelson's version of that same song. So Capitol made a great call that I didn't agree with at the time, but totally thank them for, because I think Glenn's voice on Take It Easy on Me is perfect for that record. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Well,
I wanted to
Glenn is a great vocalist, and he probably is most identified when you obviously watch a lot of the film clips, and um, you see his face, and he tends to be the front man of your group, wouldn't you say?
Well, and the voice of Little River Band, no
Yeah.
question, more
Yeah.
than any of the other people.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying about your connection, the Wayne Nelson
Yeah.
connection, he joined the band in 1980. That doesn't even compare, on any level at all with the golden years of the classic lineup.
Right.
He wasn't in the classic lineup of Little River Band was myself, Glenn Shorrock, Bebe Birtles, David Briggs, Derek Pellicci, and George McArdle.
Yeah.
George McArdle, magical bass playing on Reminiscing, on Lady,
Yeah.
on Help Us on Its Way,
Yeah.
Happy Anniversary. Wayne is a great bass player in I would call in a more of a generic style. He's very solid, but you listen to the creativity in George McArdle's parts on those iconic songs.
I was gonna say those first three albums that you got, actually first four albums are, um, just so underrated as far as, the other music that wasn't put on the radio as a single. That's the stuff I've been, obviously I've purchased a few. I got
Yeah.
the Backstage Pass album, which is really hard to find. And I bought the debut album, and then I bought the 2-on-1 CD, which, again, not easy to find. I had to do some digging and searching. I wish your catalog was more available.
We're, we're working on that, Dave. I'm trying to encourage. The idea is that we're going to remaster everything.
Yeah.
Everything will be on digital. There hopefully will be, well, the first cab off the rank will be the new greatest hits, and then the new album, which we'll call Masterpieces, we hope, or some other name.
Yeah.
That'll have songs that I know that you made a mention of a song to me called Sleepless Nights, for instance.
Awesome.
Well, that'll be on this other album. And then if the record company claim that CD sales are down to about 11%, and so that it'll all be out on digital.
Right.
But my argument to them is, of course they're down to 11. How can people buy it if they're not available? So
your stuff.
We won't be making them available because they're not selling. Well,
yeah, like a collector like myself, I'd like to have all of your individual albums. There's one of them that's really hard, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's a weird title. Not After Hours, but there's another one after that. I'm just having a brain lapse here.
Diamantina Cocktail.
That's the one. That's the one. And that would be, for fans who are kind of, they want to look. I'm not going to. I hate to do comparisons, all right, because it's like this band sounds, but you guys are on par in my book with the Eagles. You are. The quality of the material, obviously you had much greater output than the Eagles had because they were too busy fighting all the time. And they broke up for a number of years, and then it took them 20 something years to record a so-so album in what 2007 or whatever it was. It was still good. If you're an Eagles fan, you were happy about it. But
one great song on that Eagles album was "Waiting in the Weeds." That I thought was as good as anything they ever did in their heyday. I loved that particular song.
Yeah, I mean there were some moments. There were some good moments. I actually like the track, the Paul Carrack song they covered, which I'm a big Paul Carrack fan. So I was. But as far as the songwriting goes, I mean, you guys underrated. I think part of it is the Australian bias. I talk about this a lot with Canadian bands too. I just did a video about the original Guess Who and how they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I've done a video about you guys. That would be a pretty interesting dilemma, which I don't think the Hall would ever nominate you guys because you're just too mainstream and too adult contemporary, and that's just not their thing. But imagine if you got the call, hey, you guys would be the ones going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, that would be really interesting.
It's not just the Hall of Fame, but the vocal group Hall of Fame. We should be in that too.
Oh yeah. Oh
because,
well.
It's hard to imagine.
No, tell the fans. I mean, straight up, Glenn Fry. What did he say about the Little River Band coming from Graeham Goble?
Well, I mean, on stage, he said that we were the best singing band in the world. But I've also heard privately that both Don Henley and Don Henley also thought that we were the best vocal harmony band in the world ever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't. I mean, our vocals were great. I mean, let's call a spade here. I mean, it's hard to imagine a better vocal band than us at our best.
Yes.
Like it's hard to imagine. I think we were absolutely on a par with. There's only 10 bands. I think there's the Hollies, there's Crosby, Stills and Nash, there's ABBA, there's the Beatles. Mm-hmm. I'm forgetting some here, but Beach Boys.
Yeah,
there's not many, but we are absolutely in that top 10 somewhere of the best harmony bands that have maybe ever recorded, and that's a great pride to me because I did most of the vocal arrangements, and that was my vision from when I started when I was 11. It was all about the harmonies for me.
Yeah.
And so it ended up with this awesome band, Little River Band, and the greatest joy of my career was acoustically with a couple of guitars, hearing our voices in a room, not over a PA, but just in a little bathroom or somewhere. I mean, it was like going to dying and going to heaven. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
And there was something about the blend
Mm-hmm.
that particularly Beeb, Glenn, and I had that was just, it was magical. It was something happened when we sang together. There was some other thing came in and it became bigger than the three of us. And of course, that was the thing that particularly the Americans responded to
Mm-hmm.
were our vocal harmonies. You see, Fleetwood Mac was the other harmony band that I thought was awesome. Amazing harmonies.
Yeah. Well, you're right up there with them. And, like I said, I went back and I've been listening, doing some due diligence, just doing a little bit of, research just by listening to some of these older albums, the classic albums. There's just so much of a richness to it, a fullness, a texture. I'm a big fan of the analog recording years on top of
Yeah.
it. I'm not a big fan of all this digital transfer and everything's digital. I mean, there's a certain warmth. When you hear reminiscing, there's a certain warmth to it that you're not going to hear on songs today unless you go back and you try to recreate that somehow.
I mean, a record like Reminiscing, leaving aside the song, but the recording of Reminiscing, it'll be around in 500 years' time. Like it's
Yeah.
just, we didn't know it at the time, but it's a perfect record. There's not a note on that record that isn't perfect. For all of the parts that we individually came up with, like I remember when we were recording it, George McArdle took 5 weeks trying all sorts of bass parts for the song, and he eventually came back to one note in the bar, just one note, then
Mhm.
another note, and allowing the conga to carry the groove.
Yeah.
Whereas most bass players would fill up the whole groove with a bass line.
Right.
We tried all that, none of that worked. And we found, or it was George's brilliance that did that, that the one note to the bar and just stay out of the way and let the conga carry it. But then there was Beeb's part in the riff that he plays at the end, Glenn's incredible vocal, the amazing Peter Jones who played Rhodes on it, and then the harmonies. That was our first attempt at like a 5-part harmony back in those days. Now there's no tuning or editing; it's just that's sung. That's the way
Yeah.
it has to be. There is no editing. And when you listen to it, and then the incredible flugelhorn solo at the end,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
the guy comes in, Bobby Vinian, gets his horn out, doing a bit of a warm up, said, "I'll just have a bit of a go." He blew that the first take.
Wow.
Said, "Okay, I'm ready now. Let's go for it." And we were saying, "Hang on, Bobby, we got it." And he said, "I know I can do much better than that." So we gave him 2 or 3 more tries, and it was not as good as that first one.
First one.
So that was it. Out of the case, up in the mic, play the solo. It's absolute perfection.
Yeah.
And so that whole record, everything from Derek's drumming to David Briggs, just played that awesome just rhythm section, rhythm guitar, just that little thing that
Yeah.
keeps it looping. Didn't
Yeah.
overplay. No one overplayed.
No. Right.
I
Well,
don't think I don't think my part's even on the record. I think it was just Fender Rhodes, guitar, bass, and drums, and a conga, then the strings,
Yeah.
and then of course I came into it with the vocals. But it's a magical thing. It took us we recorded it 3 times. First twice it wasn't right. We had the wrong keyboard player. Third time, new keyboard player, and it was just magic. And I will remember that for the rest of my life. Just that when we recorded it, how awesome it felt, and it feels just the same today.
Yeah. It's a brilliant song, and the title of the song, obviously, it's reminiscing, and it's got this vibe, which it feels like something that could have. Part of it was from like the 1940s and the 1950s. It's got
That was the inspiration for the song.
and it's just a wonderful song that people of all ages too can really enjoy it. And that was one of the reasons. I mean, it came out in a perfect. I mean, you released the song in the late 1970s. You couldn't have released it in a better place, because if that was released now, people would be like, hey, what's, it just, I don't know. I'm a little bit pessimistic about what's going on in the world today with music. So, Graeham, let's wrap this up because we've been going for a while. I want to ask you, are you working on any projects now? Are you doing anything with music nowadays?
The musical. I've been working on the musical for 8 years with my son Joshua, and this is really starting to be. It's like a whole nother experience, and it's so exciting. But with the coronavirus
Mm,
and the amount of money it takes to mount a musical, I have the same sort of feeling that I knew that LRB really was a great band, and it didn't surprise me when we broke so big because I knew the quality of what we were doing. I have the same sort of feeling with the musical that we've got now. This absolutely could go ballistic around the world. It's got an incredible score 'cause it's got all the LRB hits in it, plus a lot of my new songs and a lot of the other songs like Mistress of Mine, which you may know about, that a lot
yes,
of people don't know about.
beautiful song.
Wonderful score, a great love story in it. It talks about it's really about my life and my time living in the band. Sorry, my time working with Little River Band. But it's got this awesome love story in it. And I hope I live to see it get on a stage, but it does exist and it will be wonderful. And when we get our angel investor
Hmm.
uh, to call us up and say, let's do this,
All
I
right.
think that there's a lot of money to be made for the investors in this show, but they got to contact me. That's what we need.
That is very interesting. And maybe like the next chapter in the LRB story. Well, Graeham, it's been a
Well, may I just finish there? That
sure.
if we got that, like, there's what could be waiting is a worldwide musical, a film telling this whole saga uh,
Mhm.
based on the musical, but then a brand new cinematic release documentary. All of these things are all possible to in the future. So I just keep working each day and enjoy my life and wait and see what presents.
Well, you can't ask for too much more. I mean, like I said, I don't know if I actually put it in the video, but I wanted to say um, I'll probably never get a chance to talk to a songwriter of your quality. People who don't understand songwriting, and you can write a song like reminiscing, and that might be your one that you write. And you've written a whole bunch of songs that were radio hits, still getting tons of airplay all around the world. It's a real honor to speak with you today. I just wanted to say thank you for coming on with me and talking about all of these different subjects. Some of them we wish we didn't have to talk about, and we wish things were smoother and life was more fair and equitable. And who knows, maybe there'll be a happy ending to this story and maybe your musical too.
Well, thanks for having me, Dave. My feeling about it all is there's no bad news. It's all good, and I think that even with the whole LRB saga, there's great gifts in it. I mean, even just the story alone is you can't have all the ups and not want any of the downs. There's
Yeah.
life presents those sort of things to you, and that it's fine. I mean, I've been incredibly blessed with my career and with the wonderful musicians I've worked with and the people I've known, my awesome family. I mean, why would I complain? Why would I complain? I'm still able to create and looking so much forward to whatever the future uh, presents to me, and still got lots to offer, I think. And
All right.
thank you again for having me.
Oh, it's all my pleasure. Seriously, best interview I think I've ever done, and hopefully the folks who watch my channel will enjoy it as well. Again, thanks to Graeham Goble, the original Little River Band, and we wish him the best in all his future endeavors.